The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show. I'm your host, Steve-O. And if you knew what my last name was, you would see why I call myself Steve-O. Good morning, everybody. Another great Ask the Expert show. Today's show is brought to you by personal injury attorney Todd Hennigan. He's considered one of the top personal injury attorneys in the Atlanta area. Call him to make a free consultation at 404-835-4935. Our expert today has become, without a doubt, my favorite. Now, we are not just in Atlanta. We're in 8 other cities across the country, getting ready to open up in New York next week. We are so excited about that. But our next guest came from one of the finest medical schools, Emory. And he had his great practice going. He was an OB-GYN doctor, and he and his wife, who's also a doctor, changed their practice right in the middle and started looking into hormones and testosterone. And it is just so easy to do this show. And we are going to help you lose weight. And let me introduce you now to Dr. Eldred Taylor. Good morning, Dr. Taylor.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing?
I got to tell you, you are, and I know you do speaking all over the country, but I can see why. You're such a wonderful speaker. Wow. You don't talk over people's heads. People understand you, because we get a lot of emails thanking you for just talking to people on their level and not like some doctor who thinks he knows it all. So we're so blessed to have you. Tell people about your practice, Dr. Taylor.
Well, the name of my practice is the Taylor Medical Group, because it's me and my wife, so nothing creative about that. But we try to have a creative practice. I initially was trained in OB-GYN. And my wife was trained in family practice and psychiatry. But about halfway through, I practiced for about 15, 16 years in OB-GYN and got really interested in hormones because my wife was dealing with issues that later found out it was hormonal. And we both got interested in trying to live a life that we wanted to, wanted to live. My wife wasn't doing well. So actually a patient came in and started asking me questions about what we call natural hormones. And I thought the patient was crazy. I'm like, hey, if I don't know about it, there's no way a patient can know more than me. But,
Yes.
I've learned to listen to my patients because, now with the internet, you can find out a lot of bad information, but also these patients come in pretty well educated about what's going on with them. So anyway, to make a long story short, they gave me a cassette tape. That's how long ago it was, listening to this guy named John Lee, who was talking about hormone replacement. Actually, my wife listened to it and said, maybe this guy can help me. And it was about how to measure hormones through saliva, how to use progesterone, and not all women needed estrogen. It's really more of a progesterone deficiency. And so anyway, from that, we kind of, started there and just expanded our practice to say, hey, maybe we didn't learn everything that we should have learned in medical school. Maybe there's some other things, because we learned how to take care of sick people. But what people want is they want to know how not to get sick and how they can function well throughout their lives. Most people aren't really sick, but they feel like they don't have enough energy. They can't sleep. They feel stressed. And that doesn't fit a disease model, but it does fit that, hey, why aren't I functioning like I used to function when I was in my 20s and 30s? And so there's certain things you can do to help your body to function as well as possible. It's just like, taking your car to get a service, a service appointment or whatever. You're trying to avoid breaking down on the highway, so you have to change the oil. You have to add in some additives so that your motor will run well. And that's how your body is. But it's not about putting drugs in your body. It's about putting what you originally had, which are vitamins, minerals, nutrients, not being exposed to environmental toxins. All of those things are important in making sure you can function as well as you can. So we call ourselves functional medicine doctors, and not disease specialist doctors.
Well, Dr. Taylor, you specialize, one of the areas you specialize in is weight loss, which is, I've learned that weight contributes to so many major things in your body.
Yeah.
But also having a healthy brain is just as important.
Yeah. Yeah. My mother passed away in 2012. She was 84. And probably the last 5-6 years of her life, she was suffering with dementia. And I just saw how that just totally takes away a person's personality. And I really think it may affect the family more than it affects the person, because the person doesn't really realize that, what's going on. But it kind of devastated us, because it seems like our mother was taken away from us 4 or 5 years before she actually passed away. So it seems like, dementia and Alzheimer's. My grandmother lived till 96, and her brain was functioning at full capacity. And so, we're kind of interested in, what's going on where, even young people, which, 40, 50, 60-year-old people are getting dementia and Alzheimer's. So, there's things you can do to try and keep your brain healthy. I'm not saying 100% you'll prevent it, but there are definitely some things that contribute to poor brain health and to increase your risk of dementia or Alzheimer's. And so that's what I thought we would touch on just a little bit, because it's a big subject, but maybe we can touch on some of the highlights.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be things in the environment that can actually damage your brain. Tell us about some of the types of things.
Yeah. Well, the brain is a delicate organ. It actually has something called the blood-brain barrier that tries to make sure that nothing goes into the brain that can harm it. But the brain is mostly fat. So if somebody calls you a fathead, it's not an insult. You really are.
Yes.
Yeah, your brain is about 70% fat. It's called DHA, is one of the fats. And so a lot of things in the environment are what we call fat soluble, so that they actually gravitate toward fatty substances. And a lot of those are pesticides. DDT and all these pesticides that are sprayed on our fruits and vegetables, and even the meat that we eat, because the cows and the chickens are eating corn that's been sprayed with pesticides. And so those can damage the brain. They're toxic to the brain. And you want to avoid that. Also, plastics. You see plastics, they'll say no BPA or no BHA or BPA. Because if you leave a plastic bottle with water and you leave it in heat, especially, now we're filming this in July, it's 100 degrees outside. If you leave it in the car, it can be up to 120, 130 degrees. And those chemicals leach out into the water. Also, heavy metals that are in the water. We know about the things happening in Flint, Michigan, and other places. And this tap water is going through pipes that are 60, 70, 80 years old. They'll have heavy metals in them. They'll have toxins in them. And all of those can go to the brain and sit there and damage brain tissue, damaged neurons and make it where your brain doesn't function well. So you can talk about how people say they have foggy thinking, they can't recall quickly names or ideas or whatever, and a lot of times it can be caused by environmental toxins. So it is important to eat organic. Uh, you know, I'm a plant-based kind of guy. I started my own garden so I can know exactly what is on my fruits and vegetables or whatever I'm eating. So it is. I know it's costly to eat organic, but it's also costly, to have poor health. You don't know how much it costs to be in poor health until you get in poor health, and
Right.
that's a lot more expensive than trying to do things to protect your health.
We did a show, you and I did a show on plant-based foods,
Mhm.
and it turned out to be our biggest show. We had the biggest audience for that show.
Yeah.
And you have actually given me ideas about plant-based foods because that's how you and your wife do in your diet, your daily diets now.
Yeah.
Um, what can you eat to actually help keep your brain healthy?
Well, again, I told you your brain is mostly fat. So you want to feed your brain with healthy fats. So we'll start off with plant-based stuff. So avocados are probably one of the best fats or fruits that you can eat and have healthy fats. So avocados, nuts and seeds, walnuts and pecans, cashews. Nuts and seeds are a great source of good fats. Also, olive oil is a good fat. So all of those things, so you can eat olives or use olive oil. Now, I want to say one thing about olive oil. A lot of olive oils that you see aren't really olive oils. Um, 60 Minutes did a expose on how the olive oil market is really corrupted. Is that they'll have regular oils and put like chlorophyll in it and make it look green. So you have to be careful with olive oils. You'd probably be better with eating the olives, but are making sure you have a good quality olive oil. Now we'll go to the non-plant based stuff. We know salmon, these oily meats like anchovies, mackerel, sardines, tuna, all of those are good fats. But you also have to be careful with fish because a lot of times fish will have heavy metals in it, will have mercury in it. So you want to make sure you have wild caught fish. You don't want farm raised fish because the farm raised fish can have all types of chemicals, and a lot of these fish will have swallowed plastic because plastic is in our oceans and in our waterways, and those little bits of plastic, I told you, they leak out chemicals that can be harmful to you. So I'm telling you, you almost have to. I don't know. I'm a Seinfeld fan. You almost have to live in a bubble, to try and avoid everything the environment because we're the top of the food chain. So everything that the little bitty minnow ate, that the bigger fish ate, that the other fish ate, and then the other fish ate, we get all of that. So you really do have to be careful. And again, I guess you talk about this and people get scared and they just say, I forget it, I'm going to die of something, so I'm just going to
Right.
eat what the heck I want. But so I'm not saying you got to do everything, but just be careful. Don't do something that can be harmful to you. Like, if you leave your plastic bottle in the car, and it's 120 degrees in your car, don't drink that water. Just go get go get another bottle. So that's all I'm trying to get across. I'm not trying to say you have to be perfect, but just know that those things can be, they can be hazardous to you.
Well, what foods should people avoid
Oh, well, that's what I was talking. Oh, so
besides the
foods,
fish?
yeah. Well, other foods that you want to avoid is processed foods. The goal is that, hey, if you read the label and you can't pronounce like 20% of the words on there, you probably don't need to eat it. If it's got chemicals in it that,
A great way to put it.
yeah. And a lot of times the chemicals, we don't actually know if it harms you or if it doesn't, because, there's no studies on all of these chemicals. And when they study it and say that it's safe, it's talking about so many parts per billion. So in that particular food, it may be below the threshold. But if you continue to eat that food, a lot of those things, especially the fat soluble ones, they will build up over time. So it may have started out below the threshold, but then if you're eating several different foods and they all have it in there, it's going to go above the threshold, and now they become toxic to you. So you want to avoid things that are processed. One probably big one is high fructose corn syrup and very sugary foods, because doctors are now thinking that Alzheimer's is really another form of diabetes. That if your blood sugar is high, you're actually damaging those small little blood vessels. That's why, people with diabetes, they have problems with their extremities, not getting enough blood flow. They have problems with their eyes because there's small vessels and they're not getting enough blood flow. And so blood flow is very important to the brain, to get nutrients to the brain. So if you have prediabetes or diabetes, you want to get that taken care of, because that can damage the brain. So high fructose corn syrup, a lot of chemicals and processed foods, and sugary foods, anything that's going to raise your blood sugar. And that includes simple carbohydrates. Talk about white bread, white rice, white potatoes. All of those things you don't want to eat in excess, because that can raise your blood sugar. That damages those small blood vessels in your brain. And I don't know if your audience have heard of something called transient ischemic attacks. It's TIAs. And those are these little mini strokes. And that means that these small blood vessels are getting blocked and certain areas of your brain aren't able to function. And so you get these little mini strokes where you may have trouble speaking, or you may have trouble seeing for a few seconds to minutes. And that's a warning sign that something's going on in your brain.
What is, we hear about supplements, and you've actually got a supplement company. Tell people what a supplement is.
Well, I would tell you that probably the most important and the easiest thing is amino acids. Amino acids, they come from proteins, and amino acids are the substance that is needed to make something called neurotransmitters. Epinephrine, norepinephrine, acetylcholine, which is the main memory neurotransmitter. Serotonin is the happy neurotransmitter. Dopamine is the reward neurotransmitter. But you need amino acids in order to make neurotransmitters. And neurotransmitters are just what it sounds like. They transmit messages between one neuron to the other. And what happens as you get older, your ability to break down protein is diminished, because you need acid in the stomach in order to break down proteins into amino acids. And by age 50, everybody's stomach acid has decreased. So as you get older, it's harder for you to break down proteins. So now you have less amino acids to make neurotransmitters. So now you slow down the transmission of information from one neuron to the other. So I would tell you that making sure you don't have decreased stomach acid, and we have all these people who are on antacids and proton pump inhibitors, and that's been shown to be connected to an increased risk of dementia. So the person really doesn't have dementia. They have a lack of stomach acid that's causing them not to be able to replenish, their supply of neurotransmitters. So you want to make sure you have enough stomach acid. You can do that easily with digestive enzymes that have betaine hydrochloric acid in it. You can do it by drinking apple cider vinegar in your water. You can even putting lemon in your water increases your stomach acid, so you can break down protein. Or you can take a supplement of amino acids. So we have something called Amino Restore, which is going to allow you to be able to make neurotransmitters. And there's also, speaking of that, we're talking about supplements, but I'm going to talk about drugs. They've shown that 35 to 40% of the people who are diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's really are probably suffering those issues from some drug that they are on. Because we know as people get older, if you're in this conventional medical system, by the time you're 60 or 65, you are probably on 5 or 10 different medications.
Right.
A lot of those can be toxic to the brain or slow down brain function or slow down gut function, so you're not able to absorb the proper nutrients. So, you want to look at that when, if it's either you or a family member that you think their brain function is decreasing, you really need to look at the medications they're on. Is that something that could be causing the brain not to be able to function like it should? So that's why it's so important to understand what can hurt the brain and what can help the brain.
What about IVs, Dr. Taylor? Can they help repair the brain?
Yeah. So inflammation can cause the brain not to function. And we all know that, if you have the flu or you have some inflammatory process going on, I mean, you can't think, you can't go to work, you can't do a thing because inflammation causes the brain to slow down. So you want to try and decrease inflammation. The great thing, I'm a vitamin C addict. IV vitamin C decreases inflammation. Also, when someone's overweight, they make something called cytokines that are these inflammatory substances. So vitamin C helps with that. And that's why weight loss is important for brain function too, because, being overweight can make you pre-diabetic and so on and so forth. Also, the brain needs a lot of energy. So we put NAD, which is nicotinamide adenine diphosphate, a big long word. I say those so you can really believe I'm a doctor, but it's really NAD. It's called NAD. And NAD is very important in energy production. And NAD goes down with age. That's why you can't, you don't have the energy that you had when you were a 20-year-old. So you can put NAD in IVs, and that helps tremendously with brain function. And probably the most important one is this peptide called cerebrolysin. Cerebrolysin is a peptide that's used in acute brain injury, dementia, and what it is, we call it neuroplasticity. What that means is, for a long time we thought that when nerves were damaged, that was just the end of it. They didn't grow back. If you lost the function of nerves, it was just over with. There's nothing you could do. But that's not true. There's something called neuroplasticity that says, so neurons, what they do is they communicate to each other. One neuron tells this other neuron what to do and going down the line. So if a part of that is damaged, then you think, well, okay, that signal has been blocked. But it seems like cerebrolysin and some other peptides like C-links but I'll just tell you, there's peptides out there that increase neuroplasticity, which means, okay, if this area is damaged, this nerve cell can go around that and re-establish that connection. So that's what cerebrolysin does. If there is a damaged part of the brain, if the neurons have been affected by toxins or whatever, it can kind of go around that area. And so we have something called a brain cocktail that has vitamin C, amino acids, B vitamins, magnesium, calcium, all of these things, plus NAD and cerebrolysin. And we've seen some, remarkable results with that, with people early in this process of dementia, really just kind of totally reversed. And even if they're further along in the progression of dementia, we've seen that either halt the progression of it or actually even reverse it. So,
wow.
So there are some IVs that can help significantly with that.
Got 2-3 texts from listeners wanting to know, where do you buy your food at in Atlanta?
I'm a big farmers market guy. We have a big
Okay.
farmers market here. I go to the DeKalb farmers market, if anybody knows about that. Whole Foods, also, that's a national chain. So we go there because I'm also dairy free too. And I'm going to tell you, if you're a vegan or whatever, we do food sensitivity tests. And I will tell you that at least 70% of the people we do food sensitivity test on have a sensitivity to dairy. So that means dairy causes inflammation. And inflammation is toxic to the brain. It makes it where, you have foggy thinking or whatever. So I try to avoid dairy products, but there are a lot of substitute dairy products that you can get. And I usually get those from Whole Foods. But now, more and more, you're able to find organic and vegan or vegetarian type foods at Kroger, Publix, because the public is really getting interested in staying healthy, trying to avoid things that are going to be detrimental to their health. So it's getting easier and easier to do the things that I'm talking about. It's a lot more choices out there. It's a lot more information out there to help you make these types of transitions. So, yeah, but I go to the farmer's market, Whole Foods, but I can go to the regular store and get 60% of the things that I need to live a plant-based lifestyle.
Dr. Taylor, we've had a couple of people ask also, how do they order your supplements? Do you have a website?
Yeah, it's taylormdformulations.com, taylormdformulations.com. And we have a lot of information on there. If you just go to health news, my wife is a big time blogger. She's probably got 30 or 40 blog posts on there about different subjects. So whether you buy the supplements or not, we try to give you good information and be an information source for people. And you can go and do your own research or go to your, local supplement store. Of course, I'd love for you to buy our supplements, but I'll tell you, we've had the supplement company for over 10 years. That's all we use in our office. And the reason why we use it, because we get to see the follow-up. We get to see
Yes.
lab tests change. We get to see the patients say, yes, they're helping me. They're coming back and, buying the supplement again. So, do we have some official clinical studies? No, but we have 10 years of seeing how it works with our patients in our office. So we think our supplements are effective, and hopefully, you can try. And the other thing is, we try to educate you because we don't want to be a GNC. We don't want you to buy everything that we have. We want you to understand, okay, yeah, this sounds like what is going on with me. This seems to be the one or two supplements that may help me. Let me give it a try and see what happens. Or you can email us and we'll try and help you. But we tried. Our whole goal was not to have people on 7 or 8 supplements. That is not our goal, because we know you're not going to do it long term.
Yeah.
You're just not. You're not going to take 7 or 8 pills. Only a very few people are going to do that. So we have these combination therapies that, hey, if you're having trouble sleeping, hey, we put phosphatidylserine, L-theanine, lemon balm. We put everything that we know that can help a person sleep, and you take this one supplement. If you have trouble, brain function, hey, Amino Restore. We put everything in there we know that's going to help the brain. So we think that a patient's only going to do 1 or 2 things on a consistent basis. So we try and make sure that we've got 1 or 2 items that's going to really make a difference in how you're functioning.
The name of the practice is Taylor Medical Group. Mm-hmm. Dr. Eldred Taylor. Give everybody your website, Dr. Taylor.
Yeah, our website is taylormedicalgroup.net. So the practice is taylormedicalgroup.net. The supplement company is taylormdformulations.com. So just remember, one is net, one is com. All right.
And if you've missed part of today's show, you can go to iHeart, their library, just put in Ask the Experts Atlanta, And this is the weight loss with Dr. Eldred Taylor. And you can replay today's show at any time. And don't forget, we open up in New York next Monday.
Wow.
Unbelievable. New York City, here we come. Dr. Taylor, you're the best.
All right.
I love you. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dr. Taylor.
Bye-bye.
It's Dr. Eldred Taylor. And that's it for us today. We will be back again with you next Wednesday at 10 o'clock with more Ask the Experts. See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.